Thank you. Chair, today we continue with evidence from the families of those who have died. First, this morning, we hear from Dawn Johnson and Craig Scott, who are going to be speaking about their mother, Iris Scott. Iris died on the 1st of March 2014, aged 73. And, Chair, their evidence will cover a very broad range of issues. After lunch, we will hear from Robert Wade, who will speak about his son, Richard Wade. And Richard died on the 21st of May 2015 at aged 30. That evidence will include Richard's experiences of mental ill health, his time as an inpatient at the Linden Centre in Chelmsford, and his death. The evidence today, again, will inevitably touch on deeply troubling matters. People attending today or watching remotely may find some of the matters we will hear about distressing, and I would like to make clear that emotional support is available from the inquiry for those who require it. There are 2 support staff from Hestia, an experienced provider of emotional support, here today and for each day of this hearing. They're wearing orange lanyards and scarves so as to be easily spotted. And there's a private room downstairs available for people to talk to Hestia staff if needed. For those watching online, information about available emotional support can be found on the Lampard Inquiry website at lampardinquiry.org.uk and under the Support tab near the top right-hand corner. We want all those engaging with the inquiry to feel safe and supported. Could the witnesses be sworn, please?
Do I need to stand up?
No, you don't need to stand. Should we start with you, Dawn?
Yeah. I, Dawn Johnson, swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I, Craig Scott, do solemnly, sincerely, and truthfully declare and affirm that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Dawn, if we start perhaps again with you, could you state your full name for the record, please?
Dawn Alison Johnson.
Thank you. The inquiry sent to you some months ago a request for evidence under Rule 9, and in response you provided a witness statement. You should have a copy of that witness statement in front of you. It's 42 pages long and dated the 9th of June this year. If you turn, please, to page 42, it's in fact redacted, but this is the witness statement that you signed and made a statement of truth on that page, 42, is that right?
That's correct, yes.
And Dawn, are you happy that the contents of that witness statement are true and accurate?
Yes.
Thank you. Craig, if I can come to you, please, could you state your full name for the record?
Craig John Scott.
Thank you. You provided a witness statement to the inquiry dated the 27th of May, 2025. And looking, please, at page 12, that is where you made a statement of truth and signed. Is that right?
Right.
And I ask you also, are you content that the contents of that statement are accurate?
I am.
Thank you. You are the daughter and son of Iris Scott, who was born on the 5th of December 1940 and who died at the Crystal Centre on the 1st of March 2014, yes?
Yes.
At the time of her death, Iris was 73.
Yes.
You've provided to the inquiry in Chelmsford in September 2024 commemorative and impact accounts about the effect of your mother's death on you both and your family, and also telling us about the life of Iris and who she was as a person. We thank you for that evidence and for your evidence today.
Thank you.
You give evidence today side by side, and Craig, I understand from your witness statement that your witness statement is shorter, and Dawn, you have taken us through the chronology of events that we'll come to. But Craig, I understand that you adopt and agree with all of the content of Dawn's witness statement, is that right?
I do.
And that your witness statement essentially adds comment or impressions or recollections where you felt able to do so.
That's correct.
And also gives your own opinions on certain matters that we will come to.
He does.
Both of your witness statements, I think, have been prepared obviously from your own recollections, but also following careful analysis by your legal team of medical records.
Yes, yes.
And I think those include both GP records and NEPTS records.
Yes.
We are also assisted by the fact that, Dawn, you kept a contemporaneous note of events in your diary.
Yes, from the December onwards, I started to make notes of my own, which I kept.
Yes.
And asked my mum also to make notes daily, because obviously we didn't get to speak to her all the time.
Yes. That was going to be my next question. We're also assisted by notes that your mother made,
Yes.
And that you now have. No, please don't say sorry. It's very helpful. And so that was at your request, and that was after her admission to Ruby Ward, was
That's
it?
correct, yes. That was mainly after the Christmas period.
Yes.
But just, as I say, just so that if there was anything that she couldn't remember,
Yes.
that she would write down to tell us.
Yes. And we'll come to see, I think, why it was that you made that suggestion to her. You both told us a little about your mother when you gave your commemorative evidence. My understanding, and you must correct me if this is wrong, is that her very first episode of mental ill health came in around about November 2007. And Craig, you tell us that there was a party in November 2007 for family and friends, and that what you first noticed was that your mother seemed very withdrawn. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
Yes.
It was a family fireworks gathering. So,
Yes.
and where Mum would normally be very much the life and soul of any family gathering. In fact, my wife, she was the first to really highlight it to me that, do you think your mum's okay?
Yes.
And it was, no, she wasn't.
What were her symptoms at that time? It was anxiety, is that right?
To be fair, we didn't really, at that point in time, really know. It was, something was wrong, something was off.
Yes.
Whether it was general ill health or
Yes.
mental health, obviously we didn't have an idea at that time, but she definitely wasn't herself.
I understand. By the 30th of November, her condition had come to the point where her GP made a referral to a private psychiatrist, I think.
We decided to take Mum to a private psychiatrist.
Yes.
At the Priory in Chelmsford, because basically to jump the queue and
Yes.
make sure that we could nip things in the bud.
Because you were so concerned about her?
Yes, she deteriorated quite quickly over those couple of weeks.
Yes. I understand that by early 2008, her condition had deteriorated further and that you made contact with the mental health crisis team.
That's correct, yes.
On the 3rd of January 2008, your mum was first seen as an outpatient at the Linden Centre. Is that right?
I can't remember the date, but yes, it was
It is
certainly into the
right.
new year. Yeah.
Yes. And at that time, my understanding from your witness statements, and this is from your and your legal team's analysis of the records, Dawn, that her diagnosis at that time was given as moderate to severe agitated depression. Yes. Thereafter, at the end of January, your mother was discharged to the care of the community mental health team. And
That's correct.
my understanding is that across the sort of early part of 2008 and the spring, a range of different medications were tried to deal principally with her anxiety.
That's correct.
She had home visits, I think, from a community psychiatric nurse,
Yes. Yeah.
and continued to see a psychiatrist within the community mental health team during that period. Is that right?
I can't remember the order that they came in. I can only remember when we actually had to call the crisis team out for an emergency
Yes.
psychiatrist.
Yes. By July, I understand that the records show that she was very much better.
That's correct, yes.
And Craig, the way that you described that is that you felt that by that stage you had your mum back.
Yeah, I go back to that when the crisis team first came out. Mum was
Yes.
in serious distress. It was not a pleasant sight, to be fair. the psychiatrist that arrived that day, he just gathered up all the medication that Mum had at that time, put it in a bag, took it away, and prescribed this new dosage, this new variant
Yes.
of medication.
Yes.
And just to elaborate, by July, Mum was back
Yes.
and very much herself.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a big change.
The psychiatrist then decided that she was so well by then that a plan was made to over the next 3 months to wean her off any antidepressants, and I think that had happened by the 1st of October 2008.
Yes, so that she didn't become dependent on anything
Yes.
because she was back to her normal self.
Yes, and in fact she was discharged then from the community mental health team on the 1st of October 2008.
Again, not the date, but yes, certainly in the autumn.
In summary, as a course of treatment, what was done over that period from when you first noticed or your wife first noticed those symptoms or the feeling that something was off, your mum wasn't right, to the 1st of October 2008, that course of treatment and intervention was successful.
Very.
Yes. Thereafter, she was well. And I understand that in 2011, there was a very short period towards the end of 2011 when your mum started to suffer again with poor sleep,
Yes.
which had been a trigger back in 2007,
Yes.
but that her poor sleep did not on that occasion turn into anything else because she was prescribed, I think, diazepam and zopiclone to get her back into a regular pattern of sleep. And those drugs were stopped by the end of 2011, and then she remained well.
Yes, it was just a very quick spike as such.
What I'd also add
Please do.
is that at the end of when Mum was feeling well, she was clearly and very willing to articulate what caused that issue, anxiety spout,
Yes,
which we then were able to address and reassure her.
yes,
So, for the fact that treatment was successful and it addressed those issues and those symptoms, it was a win-win in every case, that the issues were addressed.
Yes.
And we obviously got Mum back to a fight, to her best.
I understand. And I think you will correct me if I'm wrong. It's both of your feeling that the reason that was successful is because her presenting symptoms, which were very, very high unmanageable levels of anxiety, were first dealt with, and then you were able to begin to understand what had caused the anxiety and to address that such that she became settled and well.
Correct, yeah.
Thank you. If we come to early 2013, her anxiety began to return.
Yes.
And I think you tell us that there were a number of triggers for that. Your brother was experiencing some personal problems. Your father was unwell. She had had some dental problems that were affecting her sleep, that in itself being a trigger for the return of anxiety. And Dawn, I think you note that by 2013, you and your siblings were all busy with your lives and your own families, and your mother was the doer in the family and
Yes.
possibly felt some sense of loss. Is that right?
I think that obviously it got to the stage that Craig's children, obviously my sons and my other brother's daughters, they were all old enough and they're doing their own thing, so they didn't much, not need. They obviously did need their nan, but didn't want to be there with them all the time. And obviously they were off doing things by themselves. So yes, that's where Mum felt the loss, that she wasn't perhaps involved as much as she wanted to be.
Yes.
I think as well, as parents, with all due respect to my mum and dad at the time, we didn't need their help
Yes.
as much because the children were able to look after themselves.
Yes.
So we didn't need the babysitters, which is something that Mum loved to do, and obviously she was missing.
And then the children didn't need babysitters?
No.
Understood. In the spring of 2013, Iris was first seen by her GP, who I understand, and you've set out some of the medications, Dawn, in your witness statement, prescribed really a range of different medications across the spring and the summer.
Yes, that was gleaned from obviously Mum's medical report,
Yes.
which that my legal team have set out for us.
Yes, I understand. By April 2013, there had been a referral to the community mental health team.
Yes.
And then by June, I think efforts had been made to adjust or reduce some of your mum's medications, but the GP noted that doing so had worsened her condition quite significantly. If we can look, please, Dawn, at page 5 of your witness statement, I just want to ask a couple of things about the notes you have here. So we can see that what is recorded as some of the changes to your mother's medication between the 26th of June 2013
Yes.
and her date of admission to Ruby Ward, which was the 30th of August 2013. But to make clear, I think you've just said it actually, but these are not complete records. This is not a cut and paste.
No. This is just a summary of and it just really highlights how many different changes of medication that Mum actually had.
Yes. And looking at that, if you could look, please, at page 6 and at one of your entries, the second entry on the 24th of July 2013, we can see some of this. There appears to be an effort just to stabilise your mother. The wording used there is, I've reinstituted some of the medication in the hope that it might help put her back on an even keel for the time being. We then also see, if we can go, there are notes here about her questions about her medication, I think.
She always questioned her medication, and I think if I can go back to on that occasion where we took Mum to the Priory, the psychiatrist there was very quick to say that you need to stay on a medication for at least 6 weeks for it to take a hold,
yes.
But also on the flip side of that, not stay on it for too long so you become dependent.
Yes.
But I don't think, Mum was frustrated, she wanted to be well,
yes.
And she was very quick to ask for medication to be changed so
yes.
that she could be well.
She was quite vocal about that.
Yes, definitely.
And I think part of your consideration is that something had worked for her in the past during the 2007-2008 period. So she knew that a balance could be struck and she wanted it to be achieved.
Yes, and that's what we asked for, but
yes.
that wasn't happening, unfortunately.
So she had no anxiety in general around taking medication. She was just pushing for the right balance
yes.
to be found.
Yes.
I understand.
Because back in 2008, the medication that the crisis psychiatrist gave her actually knocked her out, which was not nice to see, for, I would say, probably 3 days, Craig. But then it's kind of reset the clock. And
yes.
But she was just spiralling between different medications.
Yes, understood. Yeah. And you both note that at that time, during the summer of 2013 and before Iris was admitted to Ruby Ward, the particular psychiatrist who was treating her appeared to change her medication according to her request, rather than at that psychiatrist's own direction. You both tell us that your mother was a strong character and that there appeared to be, that psychiatrist appeared to be being led by your mother.
He was totally led by Mum and changed always changed the medication when she requested it.
Was that something that concerned both of you at the time and that you noticed at the time?
I noticed it at the time, but at that stage, this was probably our first interaction on a regular basis with somebody, and we just thought, we didn't query it at that stage. We thought it was the process, and we thought they knew what they were doing.
Yes.
Obviously.
I think at a later stage, because that particular psychiatrist, in fact, continued his care of your mother into the early part of her admission to Ruby Ward and stayed with her until the very end of November 2013.
Yes.
And Dawn, I think you recall at that later stage, so November 2013, the ward manager in discussing the fact that that psychiatrist was to be reallocated and that your mother was to have a new psychiatrist, made comments to the effect of that the ward manager was glad that that was taking place and described that particular psychiatrist as a bit of a ditherer.
Yes, she did. She actually said those words, which at the time we both thought was quite unprofessional, really, to say something about a psychiatrist that was attached to her ward.
Yes. And Craig, we don't need to go to it, I don't think, but in your witness statement you tell us that it appeared to you at that time that what was happening was, you haven't used this word, but I get the impression from your witness statement that you felt that it was haphazard and that a series of different medications was being tried just to try and find something that might work.
Yeah, and it was also hinted or implied that there are many different excuse me, different medications we can try.
Yes.
It's a matter of finding the right one. That was almost the excuse for the forever changing medication.
Yes. Looking at your statement, the words that you recall are that the psychiatrist said there are lots of different drugs that we can try. We will find the right ones eventually.
Yeah, which didn't quite sit right with me, to be fair. Especially obviously after having the experience that we did in 2007, 2008.
Yes. Now, by the 30th of August, a decision was taken that Iris should be admitted as a voluntary patient to Ruby Ward at the Crystal Centre. Could you help us with what you can remember, and I appreciate that it was now more than 10 years ago, about the basis for that decision? Why was it decided that it would be best by then for her to be admitted as an inpatient?
To take Mum out of the family situation for what they suggested was just going to be a 3-week quick fix.
Yes.
And also Dad's health was struggling and Dad couldn't cope. We couldn't be at their home 24/7. It wasn't a good situation. You know, Dad had obviously been a bit older than Mum, was now struggling and still not the best of health. He wasn't unhealthy, but not the best of health, and he was struggling to cope with Mum's anxiety, especially at those elevated levels.
Understood. So who was it that told you that the plan at that stage was for her to be admitted for a 3-week period? Do you know?
I believe it was the psychiatrist that Mum was under for that period up until November. It was him that suggested that this would be the way forward.
Effectively, to take her out of the home situation, your father, for obvious reasons, was struggling to care for her, stabilise her perhaps, and then she could go home.
Yes, but as a voluntary patient.
As a voluntary patient. As we know, that is not what occurred, and your mother remained on Ruby Ward until she died on the 1st of March 2014. Before we go through, I'd like to take you through what did occur on that ward between the 30th of August 2013 and your mother's death in March 2014. I want to take you through a summary of what I think you consider to be the most key issues and the most grave failings, so that as we're going through that more detailed chronology, those listening understand what it is that we're looking at and the context of what happened here. All right? If at any time I make an error or there's something that you want to add, please just say so. So I think knowing that Iris was on the ward between the 30th of August 2013 and the 1st of March 2014, one of the key issues you've raised is that at no stage during that time did there appear to be a clear or settled diagnosis.
No.
In fact, and we'll come to see it, questions were being raised as late as, I think, late February 2014 as to whether or not there was any mental illness and whether or not the matters might be related to personality issues, is how they're described, or a personality disorder.
Yeah, that was probably 36 hours before Mum died.
Yes, and in fact, I think what you're referring to is a psychologist's report that was, yes, the 28th of February is the date on the report, but I think perhaps he saw your mother on the 26th. And that report concludes that there is no depression, but notes that there's an increased level of anxiety beyond what we might expect in everyday life.
That's correct.
In other words, unless you think I'm summarising wrongly, a mild anxiety.
Yes.
And that report is dated the day before your mother died. There are also some very grave issues around treatment, care planning and medication. We've talked about it a little and we'll come to it again. I think, is this fair, both of you had the impression and remain of the impression that what staff were attempting to do was to find and treat the underlying cause for your mother's symptoms rather than dealing with the symptoms themselves.
Yeah, in one of the meetings, I'm sure when we spoke to the psychiatrist, we directly asked that question, and that was the answer we got.
Yes. And your feelings on that were?
Well, it seemed to be sort of the cart before the horse scenario.
Yes.
Especially after experiencing what we did in 2007, 2008. I'd also got a very close friend who's part of the industry, clinical psychologist in Australia, and he happened to be over in the UK at the time, and I just asked him, running that scenario past him, and he said,
yes,
it's definitely the wrong way. Or in his expert opinion, it would be the wrong way to treat a patient of such condition.
In that he would have preferred to see the presenting symptoms, and the principal presenting symptom, I think, was this unmanageable anxiety, treated and dealt with, and then some headway being made into what the underlying issue might be.
That's correct.
But what you saw over the whole of that period of her admission, is this right, is that was the other way round.
Exactly.
Correct.
I don't think there was any real care plan that you felt you could follow or that she could follow.
No, and she was very frustrated by that.
Yes. That frustration and that lack of structure heightened her anxiety.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, she was in a ward that she shouldn't have been on. It was.
Yes.
I think at that stage, possibly above 80% of the patients, unfortunately, had dementia.
Yes.
My mum, apart from her illness, was very switched on and wanted to engage. She needed to be occupied all the time.
Yes.
And she really felt alone because she really couldn't have much conversation.
Yes.
As well.
And I think we'll come to it, but one of the senior nursing staff in her witness statement for your mother's inquest explained that, unfortunately, at that time, it was the case that there were a large number of dementia patients on Ruby Ward, and that was something that caused a great deal of upset to some of the ward's more functional clients. That's the way in which she has described it, in particular to your mum, who was active, sociable, needed some stimulation and contact, and actually ended up being very isolated.
Yes.
You described the ward environment, Craig, as clean but not fit for purpose otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what you would expect to see on a modern-day ward. But as far as fit for purpose staffing and levels weren't great, you could see that there seemed to be a lot of junior staff members, very much driven from one central point. It seemed to be very matriarchal.
I see.
One person in charge, and everybody followed that individual's direction.
Was that individual the ward manager?
Yes, it was.
Thank you.
And I would suggest they stayed in line with that direction.
I see.
But overall, no, it wasn't fit for purpose for someone of mum's condition. You know, without playing devil's advocate, I'm not sure where else mum could have gone at that time in defence for the NHS or the trust as a whole. But yeah, the care plan, the care, it was just completely inadequate at that time for a patient of that stature.
Did you ask them about moving ward? Did you say to them that you thought this wasn't the right place?
The only other option was to go to
Topaz.
Topaz, which is deemed for younger patients. And although Mum was a young 73-year-old, very sort of dynamic and sharp, that was deemed inappropriate for her because of the levels of violence, and that was clearly detailed to us. So that ward had a problem.
So Ruby was the least worst option.
Yeah, it seemed to be more sedate.
I understand. In terms of staffing arrangements, you both noted very, very low levels of staff.
Yes. Yes.
A lot of bank staff.
Correct.
And an incident you mentioned, Craig, is one where all members of staff on the ward but one had to attend, I think, the other ward, which was Topaz, for an incident, leaving one staff member for 15 vulnerable patients at that time on Ruby ward.
Yeah, and there was also another instance where there was one gentleman helping a patient to their room, and I actually said to him, of course, like my words along the lines were, "I bet you're doing this all the time." His direct response to me was, and I almost quote, "I'm a patient, mate. I don't work here." I went, and that just took my breath away a little bit.
Yes.
Stepped out and went, "Oh well." And then you look around, and it's an isolated ward.
Yes.
A number of patients sitting there at their desks or at these tables in the common room,
Yes.
less than engaged. So
Yes. I think you both saw patients helping other patients off the floor,
Yeah.
or patients helping other patients to do basic things.
yeah,
Craig, you also describe a staffing system that what you saw was that it was broken and that there were very, very few staff who were actually confident in their roles.
yeah. It seemed to be in a short period of time that Mum was there, relatively. And I'm mindful, and I understand that staffing levels can progress and
Yes.
people can get trained up, etc. But I'm not quite sure how you go from, in one example, serving a cup of coffee from behind the cafeteria centre,
Yes.
which was directly on the ward, to then effectively administering medication in a relatively short period of time. I would have expected more supervisory guidance and
Yes,
almost one-for-one tuition.
understood. So it's,
We didn't see that.
yes, it seemed to you then that fairly few members of staff were carrying out very different roles on the
I
ward.
would say pretty slightly different, that the level of experience to do the job appropriately was questionable.
Yes. There appeared to you both, I think, to be a complete lack of continuity in your mother's care and treatment, in that I think during that period she was treated by 3 different psychiatrists.
That's correct, yes.
There came a period in very late 2013, going into early January 2014, when there was no psychiatrist in charge of her care, as far as you understand it.
Yeah, there was a period over the Christmas, I think the psychiatrist that had been in charge of Mum just prior to that either was on maternity leave or sick leave, and so there was nobody stepping in or to take the lady's place.
Yes. You had different psychiatrists forming different opinions, and your overall sense, I think, was that nobody had an overview or a plan for her care and treatment.
No, we would have expected, like, with a handover or during that period, especially as we had flagged to them, like, weeks before, that Christmas was Mum's favourite time of the year,
Yes.
and that she, whatever medication she was on, she would dip because she just wanted to be with her family.
Yes.
But
You told us in your commemorative account
yes,
about the fact that Christmas was
yeah,
her
and to
very
leave her
favourite
by
time of the year.
herself then.
Yes.
I mean, but they, I don't know, they didn't seem to have the forethought to say, right, we've got to get a grips of this. It was, they didn't listen, basically.
Yes. One of the things that the serious incident report noted, and we'll come to that a little later, and I'm keenly aware that you both see a great number of deficiencies in that report as a whole. But one of the things that it noted was that your mother's key worker appeared to have very little involvement in her care.
No, not at all. I mean, she just didn't engage. She didn't engage with us.
No.
She didn't engage with Mum. The only time she did engage with us, which we've both found strange, was after Mum's significant attempt in the January, and it was almost like she was trying to make up for mistakes made.
Yes. Yes, that was on the 14th of January,
correct.
and we'll come to that. In relation to that individual, the SI panel found that she had undertaken no risk assessments in relation to your mother, and that there was no evidence that she had evaluated any of your mother's care plans.
That's correct.
In terms of staff, the way in which staff conducted themselves on the ward, we've talked about that a little, but it would be fair for me to say, I think, that neither of you considered that ward to be a therapeutic environment.
Absolutely not, no.
Thank you. There was a distinct lack of warmth from staff, both towards you as a family and towards your mother, in particular after her attempt to end her life on the 14th of January.
Correct.
Yeah, I'll slightly elaborate on that.
Please do.
One of Mum and Dad's friends, let's just say he'd had a checkered past. He'd spent some time at Manchester Service, and he actually said the staff there were more considerate and had more empathy than he witnessed on Mum's ward.
Yes. We're going to come to some examples of what you describe, not just as unkindness, but mistreatment from staff towards your mother. And there was a failure on more than one occasion to notify you of the very most serious incidents.
Well, yes. They clearly went out of their way to try to prevent us going into the ward in the January incident, so that we wouldn't see Mum's injuries.
Yes. A lack of candour and openness.
Yes.
And then you describe staff engagement with you as a one-way street, and that it only occurred if it was initiated by you. Nobody came to you to discuss any aspect of your mother or her care and treatment. Is that fair?
No, they saw us as interfering, I think.
Yeah, ultimately with Mum challenging them daily, and then when we arrived, us asking the questions, we were clearly the problem family.
Thank you. And then most obviously you raise grave concerns around safety, the most basic failures to keep your mother safe from harming herself.
Yes.
As well as some security incidents, her seeming to be allowed to leave the ward without anyone asking very many questions. I'm aware that she was a voluntary patient, but nobody taking note in particular of where she was going. Or
how long, or when she was back.
Yeah, although she was a voluntary patient, there was still various restrictions and understandably rules within the ward that she had to abide by. And
yes.
For them to have effectively a double locked corridor door process to get out, and you needed to be tagged in and tagged out.
Yes.
There was, again, clear lack of oversight of what Mum's movements were at times.
Yes. Your mum also had periods of leave, both with you, I think, and with her care worker.
That's correct, yeah.
And I think there were occasions on which she tried to get out of the car when her care worker was driving.
Yes.
There was a day on which you called to speak to your mother and were told that she was off the ward.
Yes.
Following her admission on the 30th of August 2013, I think you know now from the records that throughout September and October, she was on level 1 or general observations. Is that right?
Yes.
We've spoken a little about the ward environment. What you noticed, I think, immediately is that she was spending a great deal of her time alone.
Yes.
There were some activities on the ward, I think, but none that were really suitable for her. Is that right?
Yes, there were. I mean, obviously there was puzzles, and
Yes.
there was like she could go to Tai Chi and things like that. But again, because of the ability of the other people in the group,
Yes.
Mum just got frustrated, and
Yes.
that then I think there was an occasion where she was actually asked not to go to, they stopped her going
Yes.
because through frustration, I think she was disruptive because she just was desperate for engagement, people to listen to her and get some care.
And to engage with her.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
That's what they needed to do to set up the proper care plan.
Yes. I think on the 17th of September, staff noted that your mother volunteered when asked, that she was isolated, there was no one for her to engage with, and that she was very, very flat in mood, and that was after only 2 weeks on the ward.
Yes.
Thinking about what one of the senior nurses had said at the inquest about the fact that for those clients on the ward, like your mother, who had much higher levels of functionality
Yes.
than some of the dementia patients, I understand that there was an incident on the 23rd of October 2013 when another patient went into your mother's room, opened his bowels on the bed and punched her. Is that right?
We didn't know about this
No.
until our legal team actually looked at the notes. We hadn't been informed of this at all. And taking you back, Rachel, to where you mentioned about the end of September, that Mum felt low.
Yes.
You've got to remember, Mum initially went in there for a 3-week
Yes.
quick fix,
Yes.
and nothing was being done like to sort of comply with that, and that she would be in and out in the 3 weeks. We're 2-3 weeks in, she's telling them she's low, and nothing is happening.
Yes. You had seen absolutely no progress. And I'm aware that you have only learnt now about the incident I've just described, but it can be very clear to us why, in fact, that environment might have been making that first presenting anxiety very, very much worse.
Yes.
I think, again, just to add to the point, that we weren't informed on that point. And
No.
there are other items that we weren't informed on.
Yes.
It just makes me wonder what else happened there that we don't know, that wasn't documented.
Yes.
It's just complete failure. And it goes back to that lack of engagement, that willing to, the accountability or the lack of accountability from the ward side.
Yes.
And the respect for the patient and or the family.
Yes. The day after that incident, in fact, Dawn, I think you had a call with your mother. You were on your way to Cornwall, and she said to you on the phone that she didn't want to be alive and that she wouldn't be here when you got back from Cornwall.
That's correct, yes. It was on the 24th.
So that was the day after the incident I've
Yes.
just described. She didn't tell you about that incident.
No.
Was that the first time she had mentioned something like that to you or spoken to you about wanting to end her life?
I think I'm not exactly sure on time. I think it was just before then, when I went into Mum's room, I noticed that the toilet seat was loose and the curtain rail, and I pointed this out to staff and asked for Mum to be moved rooms, which they did comply with. They moved rooms. They were very vocal about the fact that they were anti-ligature beds and the radiators were on the ceiling, but there's door handles everywhere.
Yes.
So they'd moved her, but they weren't addressing all the issues. And obviously then with Mum making that statement on the 24th of October,
Yes.
that was in her mind from the early part of her admission.
Yes. Had it been before her admission? Do you know?
No, not certainly no, and certainly Dad didn't mention anything like that to us at all.
No. And we'll come back to it, but you having pointed out those deficiencies, she was moved rooms, and you talk about safety issues and radiators on the ceiling, but as we'll see, there were fixed ligature points in the bathrooms.
That's correct.
After your mother told you that she was feeling that low, and she was quite specific, I think, on the 24th of October,
Yes.
you obviously, feeling serious alarm, contacted the ward manager.
I did.
I want to take you to your witness statement, please, to look at, it's page 18, Dawn, the response you got when you reported your mother's low state. So if you look at page 18 and at page 60, paragraph 65,
Yes, that's right, yes.
do you recall that conversation?
Yes, I recall that without looking at that.
I understand.
She just said that I was being a paranoid daughter and that nothing was going to happen on that ward and that Mum was just trying to raise my anxiety.
Yes.
And totally dismissive, didn't take anything on board at all.
I think she went so far as to say that if you didn't calm down, you'd end up on the ward as well, didn't
That's
she?
correct, yes. Obviously, I was very distressed because I'm away and...
Of course.
Yeah.
As far as you're aware, there's no record of your call to the ward manager about that at that
No.
time on that day.
No.
As far as you're aware, no other action was taken in relation
nothing
to
at
the
all,
information.
no. Well, certainly, I have no knowledge of anyone speaking to Mum or, as you say, notes making in her records.
The records show no change to the level of observations after you'd passed on that information, or any other renewed risk assessment or action of any kind.
No action at all.
Thank you. The first record that we see of your mother having expressed on the 24th a wish to die comes 11 days later on the 4th of November. And it's actually at the next paragraph on the page we were looking at, page 18 in paragraph 66. There's a record we see on NEPT's systems from the 4th of November. Iris's daughter has said her mother voiced a concern that she would end it all in a phone conversation. No specific plan was said.
That's correct, yes.
On the same day, it appears that your mother was spoken to about having told you that she was feeling low enough to want to end her life. And just looking at the next paragraphs on that page.
67, yes, I'm with that, yes.
Yes. So 67 on page 18. What happened essentially was that your mother said, no, I wouldn't want to distress my family. I'm not going to hurt myself.
Yeah, and she said she wasn't brave enough to do it, yes.
She said she wasn't brave enough. And as far as you're aware, that was taken at face value.
Yes.
Moving forward, just 4 days later, there's a record that shows us that on the 8th of November, Iris herself told staff that she wanted to kill herself.
Yes, we weren't informed of that either.
No notification to you either, Craig, about that, or to your father.
That's all.
On that day, the psychiatrist seems to have noted high anxiety, depression.
Correct.
And then on the next day, which is the 9th of November, no, I'm so sorry, the 9th of November is when that was discussed with her on the ward round. No other action was taken, although I think there was that day a CPA meeting that you attended. You tell us that at paragraph
Yeah, on the same day we expressed our concerns.
69.
Yes, as I say, I think but perhaps that we were asking for a CPA meeting because
understand.
nothing was happening and we were just trying to get some action. And
So were you told during that CPA meeting, as far as you can remember, that on the 8th of November Iris had told staff that she wanted to kill herself?
no, I didn't recall that at all until we were speaking to the legal team after we was doing our statement, yes.
That's when you first
Yes, we
discovered?
first discovered that Mum had made a couple of comments that
Yes.
she was low enough to think about taking her life.
Yes. It appears then, going through November, that a number of further changes appear to have been made to your mother's medication, and that by the 18th of November, the psychiatrist who was taking over from the one that had been described as a bit of a ditherer that we were discussing earlier, noted that she considered that your mother's diagnosis was still unclear.
Yes.
So that's mid-November, and so we're a number of months in to what
Yes.
should have been a 3-week quick fix,
Correct,
sort
we're
of
3
respite,
months in.
stabilise, stay.
Yeah, again, I'm not meant to be defending the trust, but you know, mental health isn't a science, and it seems that from our experience, it's very subjective.
Yes.
And it just seemed that this particular psychiatrist now had a completely different view as to where mum should be treated. And I think from the lack of progress that we'd seen in mum under the original psychiatrist,
Yes.
the fact that this particular individual wanted to change it, we were thinking, okay, maybe he has got it wrong and she's going to get it right. And you know, for a family that had not been through that process before, it was difficult to understand what was the right approach. But that underlying treatment plan just seemed to be very much the same of not treating the symptoms.
Yes.
And it was then just following that same path.
Yes. Nonetheless, as you say, the fact that there appeared to be the fact that there was a new psychiatrist and a slightly different opinion, you took as a potential positive because no progress had been being made up to that point.
We just thought it couldn't get any worse.
Yes. In December, and I think this comes to us from the serious incident report, the psychiatrist noted that it's at page 19, paragraph 71, Dawn, if you want, both of you, I'm so sorry, if you want
Yes.
to look at it, that while depressive illness played a part, personality issues were more important.
Correct.
Now, that's not the first time we're going to see that kind of comment in your mum's records. Did anyone ever say anything like that to you? Any staff member? Did anyone say, we think this might be personality issues rather than, or as well as, a depressive illness?
No.
I think in the December they talked about doing a scan
Yes.
because they thought that there may be some small nerve damage, frontal lobe damage.
Yes.
That was early in December.
Yes.
But again, we didn't get the results of that until the 23rd of January when we challenged in a CPA meeting.
Yes. So that's yes. We'll come to that
Yeah.
CPA meeting, which was on the 23rd of January. But I think that's right. And in fact, the new psychiatrist on the 3rd of December had noted that actually, in her view, your mother was not responsive to medication. It just wasn't. It wasn't working.
No.
Which is, of course, what your mother had been saying for all of those months.
Yes.
Repeatedly. She felt it herself that it wasn't working. She wasn't making any progress. I understand that a referral was made for a scan to look at the issues,
Yes.
the possibility of the issues you've just described, on the 17th, actually on the 3rd. It took place on the 17th of December, and then you repeatedly chased for the results of that scan.
Yes.
You left messages.
Yeah, and I think the psychiatrist, she was quite surprised that we hadn't had the results by the time that we were challenging the staff on the 23rd of January.
Yes. Do you know what the results of that scan were?
I think there was, I can't recall exactly, but I think there was some small nerve damage, maybe. But again, I would have to look at Mum's notes to be 100% sure on
Yes.
the medical
No.
terminology.
No, that's right. But no major issue was
Yeah.
flagged as
No.
a result of
No,
that
definitely
scan.
not, no.
Nothing that would
Change their path.
change their path
No.
or suggest that, the treatment plan. would completely deviate from where they were going at that moment in time. So Mum was, in a sense, healthy.
Yes, yes. We've referred to this a little already, but your mum remained on the ward in the lead up to Christmas. You were seeing no progress, and I think you took the step of trying to warn staff that she was likely to deteriorate over the Christmas period.
Yes, we did warn staff.
More than once, repeatedly, because, again, we never felt we were being listened to, especially around this time of year. We knew just how Mum was going to be reacting away from her family.
Yes. I think at that time you were worried about changes to staff as well as how she was likely to react, as you say, to being away from home over that particular period. There came an incident on the 19th of December where, as I understand it, your mother left the ward and there was some sort of incident in the car park where, did she run at your father's car?
Yes, Dad and I had gone to the hospital independently. We was in the car park, and Mum had obviously been let out of the ward. She had a coat on, but she sort of ran towards Dad's car, and she was telling him to go away, go. And she was quite vocal, and she looked very agitated. Mm. But obviously they had let her out of the ward like that.
Yes. That event, as I understand it from both of your witness statements and from the records that you've relied on in those statements, led to a decision in the ward that your mother should be assessed under the Mental Health Act.
That's correct, yes.
Help me to understand why that was. Was it because she had displayed particular agitation outside of the norm? Was there some danger or some new level of...
I think perhaps because she had run into the car park, she had been let out in an agitated state.
Yes.
And again, it was obviously because she was going to be there at Christmas, nothing was happening, and this was her desperation.
Was she aggressive when she was agitated?
She was not aggressive, she was more vocal. I mean, she was just telling them to go. I think... she was frail, so she wasn't... My dad was 6 foot, although he was elderly, he was 6'3". She was barely 5 foot, so there was nothing that she could do. She was just frustrated with there being no action, and unfortunately, on that day, it was directed towards our dad.
And I wonder whether the decision for the ward hospital trust to section Mum at that time was more for their benefit than it was for Mum's.
I see.
For having more then direct control and oversight over her movements, etc. Where as an inpatient under the
as a voluntary,
she can move relatively freely.
Yes.
Where obviously if you're sectioned, they have that greater responsibility. Perhaps duty of care,
yes,
which they can then enforce. So I wonder whether it's more for their own controls than it was for Mum's well-being.
I also question the fact whether it was not to punish us, but again, sort of put us in our place.
Yes.
That over that period she's going to be on section, because around that time they actually restricted visits as well. Yes.
So you tell me if I'm misunderstanding. Do you consider that there may be an element of not just what Craig said about having more control over your mum's movements, but also, in fact, over yours?
Their way of containing the situation.
Indirectly punishing us all.
Yes.
You said earlier that you thought they saw you as the problem family. Do you want to say a bit more about that? Were there individuals you felt that, or did you think all of them felt that?
Every day we had an issue to raise because we wasn't getting any feedback. The staff didn't have time to talk to us, as we've mentioned before. Sometimes there was the periods we was there, we would only see one permanent member of staff, the rest, maybe in desk. every time we approached that desk, the shoulders went down and it was like, what do they want today?
The tone was set from the top, as I implied earlier, from the people in charge, or the ward manager, and the people that were reporting into her. She controlled that ward. I won't say with a rod of iron, but you knew...
Sorry, you repeat that?
I won't say she controlled with a rod of iron, but it was very clear who was in charge and how the ward would be managed and run. And if that person, that individual, took a decision, everybody jumped. And I'm sure we're going to touch on it a bit later when we talk about the first attempt.
Yes.
So I'll probably just leave it there for a minute.
I think we will come to it, but there was a stage after that where, in particular, Dawn, you had a conversation with a staff member who told you that you were not complying as a family and that you were not assisting your mother by not doing so.
That's correct, and that we were making the situation worse.
Yes.
And because of our presence on the ward, they had to deal with Mum in a different way.
Yes.
I remember leaving the hospital that day. When I got home, my husband suggested going back to speak to the staff and try and to address the situation, why it was still fresh. But we had then, by things that Mum had said and by things she had written down, that she used to say, you can't beat the system, you don't realise what they're like when you're not here.
Yes.
And we thought that anything we'd done, we were not put, we didn't, I think we thought she was in danger, but there certainly was not, we didn't feel comfortable about the situation, and it was from that day that I decided that I was going to start making a personal diary of every time, a note in a diary, every time I went in there, of what had happened, and asked Mum to do the same.
And did you get the impression that they were hostile not just to you as a family, but to your mother personally?
Yes.
That they didn't like her?
No.
They didn't like to be challenged. And the fact that, as Dawn just implied there, if we then challenged again and again, that would, when we left the ward, that would only be taken out on Mum, whether it would be leaving her on her own for longer periods of time, just making life generally more difficult. It was becoming anti-productive from our challenges to what might then we were hoping would, where Mum would benefit. In fact, it was having the opposite effect.
Yes. There came to be a stage, I think, where both recorded in your mother's diary and in what she said to you, it appeared to you, I think, that she was afraid.
She was afraid, yes.
Yes. And we'll come to some of the reasons for why that might have been. But she recorded in her own thoughts in that diary and said to you, they'll try to break me.
Yes.
And she was worried about repercussions.
Yes. She always used to write notes in there, be careful what you say to them.
Yes.
And that was exactly, be careful what you say because it comes back on me.
Yes. And also things to the effect of, you don't know what it's like in here when you're not here. And Craig, you must help me. Do I understand correctly that that is something that you heard another patient saying?
Those exact words. We were sitting in the common area, table of four, as a family. I'm not sure if it was to another instance or we were just sitting there, I'd say passively talking to Mum, but there was another lady sitting with her family and those exact words she repeated.
What were the words, please?
You don't know what it's like in here. Prior to that, I have to say that when Mum had said it, I probably didn't take it as serious as I should have, or we should have, not in the same context, because clearly we didn't know what it was like to be in a ward like that for that period of time, but it just struck me as very the word? Poignant.
Telling.
Very telling, yes.
Yeah, because around that time as well, there was a similar situation where we were sitting on those tables. I'm not sure if it was the CQC or something like that were in. There was certainly a body of people going round asking questions.
An inspection? Was it a formal inspection?
Yeah, formal inspection of some sort.
Yes.
And Mum was, because I was looking to try to get someone's attention.
Yes.
And she was agitated. No, don't rock the boat. Like, just leave it, let it go.
Yes.
Like,
She didn't want you to complain?
No.
No. You said a few moments ago, in response to some questions from Baroness Lampard about it, that you were at the desk every day. There was always something you needed to raise. But I want to just try and set that in context, and you tell me if this is wrong. As I understand it, in part that is because the questions you had were never answered, so they remained the next day.
Yes. Yeah, and we never got to see anybody, even if we said, could you ask so-and-so if this is what's going to happen next, blah, blah. We never got that response back. So we were getting perhaps as frustrated as Mum, and we could see Mum getting worse.
Yes.
Nothing was getting better, so we had to try to do something. I can't remember if it was around that time that we actually made inquiries at the Priory, but it was beyond our reach. We could with mental health, it's not like a broken leg where in 6 weeks, it may be better or whatever.
Yes.
We didn't know how long. We couldn't financially.
I understand.
I'm sad to say.
Could I take you back, please, to the assessment that took place following the incident in the car park on the 19th of December?
Yeah.
Did either of you or your father attend that assessment?
Not that I recall, no, we were just told.
That it would be taking place?
Yes.
Or you were told that it had taken place?
Yeah, but I think probably we were told that she had been placed on as Section 2, yeah.
Now, if you want to have a look at them, the comments that are recorded by the clinicians during that assessment are on page 20 of your witness statement, Dawn, at paragraphs 79 and 80. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about, we can see here that the records say, obviously both doctors agreed that your mother should be detained under Section 2.
Yes.
That was the conclusion of the assessment. But her behaviour here is referred to as becoming very unpredictable. And there's a note that she constantly questions her medication. But if you look at paragraph 80, the approved mental health practitioner appears to have used the word aggressive in relation to your mother's behaviour. And all I wanted to ask is whether or not you think you may have answered it, but whether you think that's a fair assessment, whether you think that's right, that she was actually aggressive.
I don't think she was aggressive. No, she said she was very vocal. She was said just no, go away. No, I don't recall.
I mean, define aggressive.
Well, let me put it in this way. Had anyone on the ward ever told either of you that she had behaved in an aggressive manner?
The only person Mum, sadly, was aggressive to in any way, shape or form was my dad.
Yes.
She would give him a little nudge or a little
grab his hands across the table and sort of lurch a little bit towards him, or maybe, I'm not sure, she might have kicked him on the table. Not hard, but enough, an unnecessary act, but she certainly wasn't aggressive to anybody else, as far as we were aware, not to anybody else in the family.
Yes.
And I would suggest that had she been aggressive to anybody else on that ward, staff, patient, they would have told us.
You would have known about it.
Oh, yes, definitely, yeah.
In any event, as I understand it from your notes, Dawn, certainly in December and January, your mother was spending around about 12 hours a day alone.
Yes. She wasn't allowed into her room. Her room was locked.
Yes.
She had a little, like a tote bag with her, I suppose, and she used to sit out by the nursing station for well, from the moment she got up, and she was not supervised, but probably watched getting dressed.
Yes.
She was then had to spend that time in the communal area.
Yes.
Obviously, she then had very little stimulation. She wasn't talking to fellow patients, and because of her behaviour, she hadn't been welcomed at some of the activities outside of within the Crystal Centre, like the Amethyst ward. She hadn't been invited back to perhaps the Tai Chi and
yes,
things like that.
And part of that was, as you described, that she was finding that very frustrating.
The way she was presenting.
It was too easy for her.
Yes,
she was frustrated.
Yes.
What I understand is that you were told about the section on the 20th of December, and you were told that she was going to be sectioned for 28 days as a result of that assessment, and you were at the same time told, Dawn, that your visits were going to be restricted.
That's correct.
Now, that was the 20th of December. That was after you had conveyed to staff, I think both of you, that your mother was likely to deteriorate over Christmas.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if it was on that day, but I think they said you've got 10 minutes with your mum. And I remember saying to mum, like, we've got 10 minutes. Like,
yes.
This is what's going to happen. This is what I want you to do. We need to. I used to take her clothes home to be washed.
Yes.
Like, give me your clothes, and now this is what I want you to do. I want you to write down it. But she was like not out of control. She was seriously agitated because she was now thinking, I'm in there, and I'm not going to be out of the hospital to be with my family aren't going to be able to come and see me.
Yes.
And she had gone from being lonely to desperate.
What reason was given for restricting your visits?
They said that our visits raised her anxiety, but there was nothing that we could see, and I don't think there's been anything in the notes to say that we raised our anxiety, because it wasn't just Craig and I that were going in. Mum had a big circle of friends were also visiting, so it was everybody. And my mum's sister-in-law was more like her sister, really, because mum had lost her brother at such an early age.
Yes.
And they had a very close bond, but it wasn't just us, it was the whole family.
I think they saw it as well that we were placating to mum's condition.
Yes.
And where they were being firmer, or wanted us to be firmer, and we were being sort of more considerate to mum's needs, and that's something that they definitely pushed towards myself, and unfortunately I adhered to their requests and I was firmer with mum. Absolutely regret that to this day.
I understand. Now, that is interesting, because what I recall is that on the 20th of December, which was the date of the assessment under the Mental Health Act, your mother recorded in her own diary notes to the effect of, about the staff, they think I'm putting it on. They think I'm putting this on to attract attention. And what you're saying, I think, Craig, is possibly that you were not treating this as something that your mother was putting on, and therefore possibly disrupting the way in which staff were approaching it. Is that fair?
Yeah, and I guess this stance I took, although slightly firmer than perhaps Dawn and Dad, I just tried to get her perhaps a bit more forcefully to engage with the programme that the ward was setting out for her, rather than fighting it. And I think I probably used along the lines of, there's no point fighting it, you're not going to win, you just got to go with the flow, and we're going to come out stronger and better at the end of it. And she was saying, just kept repeating, it's not happening.
Yes.
And that would frustrate me. Probably was less patient back then than I am today.
Thank you.
But yeah.
Dawn, I'm going to take you, please, to the conversation that you had with a member of staff on the 22nd, which will just take us a few minutes, and thereafter as long as you're both content and Chair, you are content, I propose a short break. You in fact were told, I think, on the 20th, you did visit Dawn, and I'm looking, please, at page 21, paragraph 83 of your statement, if this assists. You did visit, and a staff member accused you, I think possibly not you personally, your family, of interfering with your mum's progress, disrupting her, and she reiterated that your family as a whole was not complying and not supporting nursing staff.
That's correct.
She also said that your mother was not eating, drinking or sleeping. Was that true as far as you were aware?
No, that was not true. Every day I went in there, I bought she had a cake and a Bounty. She was certainly ate the stuff from the canteen. She was losing weight because of her anxiety. Her metabolism was going at the speed of light, you know. Yes. That's why she was losing weight.
Yes.
And the same had happened in 2007, 2008. Mum had lost a significant amount of weight, which is purely because of the metabolism was obviously through the sky. Because
of that very significant anxiety?
Yes.
Understood. On the 21st, you were told that the ward was closed and that you couldn't visit until the following Monday. The 21st was a Saturday.
Yes.
You called, I think, Dawn, then on the 22nd, which was the Sunday, and were told that you couldn't when you called in the morning, you were told that you couldn't speak to your mum because she was too agitated.
That's correct.
And then you did manage to speak to her later that day, on the 22nd, and she told you that she was frightened.
Yes, she was frightened. She was upset.
Yes.
Yeah.
At some stage on that day and during that visit, staff informed you that you, not you personally, Dawn, your family, would not be able to visit over Christmas.
That's
is that
correct.
Right? And obviously, you've already made clear that was the worst possible time to be restricting contact. What reason was given?
I honestly can't remember a reason. It was just that they had made the decision, as Craig had referred to earlier, that perhaps this was their way of dealing with us as a family, Mum as a patient.
Yes.
But if they were going to do that, why hadn't they done that in the first couple of weeks and said, right, okay, your mum's here, we've got 3 weeks, let's go from now.
Yes.
We're now into month 4.
Yes. I think you both addressed this really. You considered that it was a punishment of sorts, this restricted
definitely.
Contact. And I think it was at around that time that you decided to instruct an independent advocate.
Yes. I don't know if... I remember getting a card with... I don't know if that was at the reception. I don't know how that all came about.
Yes.
Because obviously myself, I was agitated at that time.
Of course.
I was having to deal with Dad, who was also agitated, wasn't he? Because he just wanted us all home as a family.
And just to add to the extra pressures Dawn was experiencing at the time, I was actually away on holiday.
You were what?
I was actually away on holiday. I'd left, I think it was on the Friday, which would have been, the 21st. So yes. Dawn was managing all this on her own. So, and a lot of what happened now, from the 21st to the new year, I wasn't aware of.
Because you're away?
Because I was away.
I understand.
Kindly, Dawn kept this from me so I can enjoy my holiday with the family.
Thank you. Chair, would you be content for us to take a short break?
Yes.
There?
10 minutes?
Yes, please.
It's true.
Thank you. Before the break, we were talking about the fact that just before Christmas, you instructed an independent advocate. Am I right in understanding that the principal purpose of instructing the advocate at that stage was to try to get some access to see your mum over Christmas?
Correct.
I understand that that advocate went into the ward and spoke to staff, and whatever those discussions were, on Christmas Eve you were told that there had been a U-turn and that you could visit your mum.
That's correct.
In a call on the same day, I think on the evening of the 24th of December, Dawn, your mother again expressed to you that she did not wish to be alive.
Yeah.
Can you remember whether you reported that comment to staff?
I can't remember on that occasion, no. Obviously, that was at the same time we'd just been told we could go to see her, and I knew that sure as eggs were going to see her the next morning on Christmas Day.
Yes. You also tell us that you felt, you had a feeling during that call that your call was being listened to.
Yes.
Tell us about that, please.
There was just a click on the line, and it wasn't a delay, but it just, I couldn't hear somebody was there, but I was aware that with the click that someone could possibly be there.
And you had that feeling?
I had that feeling, yes. Which I now know was being listened to.
We'll come to that because there comes a point in February when, in fact, NEPT's records show that your mother requested to be allowed to make telephone calls to her family in private without being monitored, and that request was declined.
Yes.
You, on Christmas Day, what your mum said to you was that she couldn't stand being a prisoner anymore and that she wanted to kill herself. This is at the last two lines of paragraph 88 on page 22, if you want to follow.
Yes, yeah, I'm with you there, yes. She just was saying she felt alone.
Yes.
And as always, her medication was wrong.
Yes, and she had raised that on Christmas Eve as well, I think,
yes.
didn't she, that her medication was wrong.
Yeah.
I ask again, but I do bear in mind what you've described about the slight bind you were in. Do you remember whether or not you reported that comment on Christmas Day about wanting to die?
I can't remember 100%. I can't see a reason why I wouldn't have said, but I can't truly say unless it was there in my notes. As I say, there was just so much going on.
Yes, I understand. Moving forward into the new year, you were told on the 2nd of January that there would be another change of psychiatrist, yes?
That's correct.
I think you were both unhappy about that, or perhaps, Craig, you were still away.
No, I'd returned.
You had returned. You were both unhappy about that because we're now onto the third psychiatrist during this admission, and you voiced your frustration about that to the ward manager.
That's correct. But she still didn't, there was a gap before that. We were told that Mum was going to get a psychiatrist,
yes.
But I don't think that happened for perhaps another week or a few. It certainly didn't happen on the 2nd.
I think that's right, because what the records show is that by the 7th of January, the last time your mum had been seen by a psychiatrist was on the 27th of December.
Right.
So there was something of a gap. On the 9th of January, when you spoke to her on the phone, she was very agitated and told you, I think, that in part that was due to the change of psychiatrist.
Yes.
She also, Dawn, I think, told you on that call that staff were trying to break her down.
Yeah. She just said that the staff were lying and that she couldn't carry on. That they're trying to break her down.
Did you ever have moments when you wondered whether she was delusional? In other words, did you have any reason to question
absolutely
the truth of what she was saying?
Absolutely not, no. Because we also had a feeling that things weren't right as well. And she was never one, she didn't exaggerate things. She was just frustrated. She just... the way she presented, obviously she was ill, but that was due to her frustration. She just wanted to be out of there. She wanted to be back doing what she used to be doing.
And she certainly didn't present any other issues of delusion with anything else. It was
truth telling.
Nothing like that. She was still very much the strong individual that we knew her to be. But obviously the topic of the conversation was always around the care, lack of care, the medication. It was always very focused. So to go there and have a pleasant meeting, a sort of social meeting with Mum was not impossible. So it made things hard. But she was the one that was suffering more than anybody else. So.
Thank you.
On the 12th of January, I understand, again, Dawn, that your mum told you, not only did she tell you again that she didn't want to be alive, but she disclosed to you that she had tried to suffocate herself.
That's correct.
She had used an item that we might describe as a very everyday item, but that was nonetheless obviously risky.
Yeah, and available to her.
Yes.
Yes.
On that occasion, because of the information she had given you, you did inform staff.
I did.
And as far as you are aware, was any action taken?
I don't think any notes were made. They certainly didn't speak to Mum whilst I was there.
There's nothing in the records that shows any change or any action?
No, she's just remained on level... I think she was on level 1 then.
She was.
Yes.
And on the 13th of January, the records confirm that she remained on level 1 observation. So there had been no step up in those observations as a result of the information you had conveyed to staff.
That's correct.
The following day, on the 14th of January, her period of section had come to an end, and a decision was taken by clinicians not to extend it. Now, I think what you tell us is that you don't remember having any input into that. Am I right that you were simply told that it had ended and it wasn't going to be extended?
Yes, I just think that the period was up and that was it.
Yes.
Despite having said, what Mum had said to me on the 12th of January, 2 days later, that they didn't think, we'll extend it for another week. Or
yes. As far as you are aware, either of you, was any further assessment taken place? Did any further assessment take place at that stage?
Not that I'm aware.
Not that I'm aware.
And presumably, if you didn't have any input into the decision, or if nobody asked you about your thoughts about whether or not that period of section should be extended, you had no opportunity to discuss that with her?
Correct.
I mean, other than whenever we did challenge things, we were never consulted about a decision. So it was made... They made that decision, which was, in some cases, maybe fair enough, but
yes.
I would certainly expect to be engaged on some of the more serious items or decisions made, like sectioning and coming off a section.
Yes.
So, but we never were.
As far as you are both concerned, what was the overall effect or impact of that period under section? Do you think it had made any kind of difference to any aspect of your mother's progress or her...
Made it worse, I would have
said.
Deteriorated. Without a doubt.
And obviously those comments and records suggest exactly that from Mum's feelings.
Yes. And the regularity with which she was expressing to you in particular, Dawn, her wish to die, and that she couldn't be a prisoner anymore, I think is how she put it. The 14th of January, when the decision was made not to extend her section, was also the day on which your mother made her first attempt to ligature.
Correct.
And that took place in her bathroom, in the bathroom of her room on the ward.
Correct.
What we know now, and I'm going to come back to the way in which you found out about this, but what we know now from the records is that on the 14th of January, for certain, no information about that incident was communicated to any of you.
No.
No records from that day reflect the incident, the fact that she had attempted to ligature.
No.
Nothing in her plans at all.
No records from that day reflect the injuries that your mother had sustained during that incident.
Correct.
Those injuries, forgive me, were primarily major facial bruising and bruises to both sides of the head and dental injuries. Is that right?
Correct.
Certainly injuries that wouldn't go unnoticed to the naked eye.
They were obvious facial injuries.
Very, very obvious.
Thank you. We also know from the records that the only treatment provided to your mother, having attempted to ligature on the 14th of January, was paracetamol and to have her blood pressure taken.
Correct.
There was no physical examination by a doctor until 2 days later at 7 p.m. on the 16th of January.
I don't think they even spoke to Mum, questioned her to see if her story was true, because I think at first Mum said that she had had a fall.
Yes. You think at first she said she had had a fall?
Yes.
Right. I'll come back to that, if that's all right, because the first that you knew of this incident was that, is this correct? You must tell me if I have the sequence of events wrong. Your father called the ward on the 15th of January, so the following day, and was told that he couldn't speak to your mother because she had gone for treatment because she had knocked a tooth out.
Yes. My dad had come to my house on that 15th.
I see.
And that's when he said to me, Mum's had an accident, that she's had to go to the dentist, she knocked a tooth out.
Was he told that she had had an accident by staff, not by your mother? He didn't speak to her at that time, did he?
He didn't speak to her.
I see.
He was just told that he couldn't speak to Mum because she had gone for treatment because she had knocked her tooth out.
And then at around about 4:30 p.m. on the same day, so the 15th of January, you did manage to speak to your mum.
Yes, I phoned her.
So that's not the same, so that's later in the day. And your mother was quite plain with you that she had tried to end her life, is that right?
Yes, after some questioning, yes, because I was asking her about the accident, because I think she said that she had slipped or something like that, and I'd asked her where, and she said that she had her face on the wardrobe. Well, there wasn't, between her bed and the wardrobe, there was no space to slip and hit your head, and I was asking if the floor was wet, just generally trying to get to the bottom of why she had gone to the dentist.
Yes.
And that's when she just said she was sorry, I did it.
I think she then went on to give you some fairly substantial details about how she had tried to ligature.
Yes.
You tell us about those, we'll come back to them, paragraph 97 on page 24.
Yes.
And then I think, is this right? Was your father still with you because you gave the phone to him and he carried on talking to your mother?
Yes.
While you contacted the ward?
That's correct, yes. I was trying to keep Mum engaged, whereas I realised something was seriously wrong.
Yes.
And hence I phoned to speak to the ward manager.
And you did that, and you spoke to the ward manager whilst your dad remained on the phone with your mum, and you were told that it wasn't true.
There was nothing wrong and that my mum was just attention seeking.
The ward manager also said to you, I think, that she was simply trying to raise your anxiety as a family.
That's correct.
That was a consistent line, and if you remember, going back to when Dawn was travelling to Cornwall, it's just a consistent line they took, that Mum's behaviour was just there to more hinder us or aggravate us to do things rather than any real concern.
Yes. Now, your legal team have undertake that you recall that, and you had recorded it yourself in your own notes, but also your legal team have undertaken this analysis of medical records. And just I'm looking at paragraph 100 on page 24. NEP's own records confirm that the ward manager told you that it was not the case. That's at the very bottom of page 24, Dawn.
Yes.
Now, I understand by that those records are saying it was not the case that she had made an attempt to ligature.
That's correct.
And staff are aware of Iris at all times due to her fluctuating levels of anxiety. It is your belief now, or quite soon after, that a great deal of what you were being told was to try to prevent you from going to the ward.
Yes, definitely. They didn't. I said that I'd come in, and they said there was no need to come in, that everything was fine. And then obviously I was just questioning what was happening, why had she gone to the dentist. We was obviously looking at something, something had happened basically.
Yes.
And until I went the next day, I didn't realise the seriousness of what we saw. What happened.
No, because on the 15th, of course, you had no idea of the injuries we've just described.
No,
you thought there was
just
a problem
tooth.
with a tooth.
Yes.
Yes. The records show that in fact, on the 15th, your mum's observation levels were raised to level 2, but you didn't know about that at the time. You had just been told that it wasn't true and there was nothing wrong. And then the records from the 16th of January, so the following day, tell us that at the ward review it was decided that level 2 observations were to remain in place, that all risky items were to be confiscated from your mum, and that there would be some additional medication, essentially some changes to her medication. Yes?
Correct.
The extent of her injuries became clear to you immediately, I think, on the afternoon of that day when you visited with your father, Dawn.
That's correct.
And not only could you see the injuries she had sustained to her face, I understand that during that visit, your mum showed you, she walked you through what she had done on the 14th to try to ligature.
Yes.
And what she showed you involved a fixed ligature point in her bathroom.
Yes.
A chair.
Yes.
And a cord item or belt item.
Yes.
At that point, as I understand it, Dawn, you approached staff and started to talk to them about what had happened and what your mum had just shown you, and that staff member insisted during that conversation that your mum had simply had a fall.
Yes, it was mum's key worker.
That was her key worker?
Yes.
Thank you. There's then a slightly bizarre turn to this conversation between you and the key worker, in which, as I understand it, the key worker tells you that your mum couldn't possibly have ligatured because she was being observed every 20 minutes.
Yes.
And help me to understand this. You say, looking at the middle of paragraph 103 on page 25, yes, starting about halfway down, with the sentence starting, "I explained." Do you see that?
Yes, because I was explaining to the key worker that they said she had a fall, and I said, well, she's got bruises on both sides of her head and
yes,
under her eyes and everything, and the way that the item had broken,
yes,
the key worker suggested that she must have cut it with some scissors. I obviously questioned that. How would my mum have some scissors or a
Can I stop you for a moment? So there was a broken item that your mother told you she had used
yes,
to try to ligature, and you saw that broken
yes,
cord.
Yes.
And you pointed out to the key worker that there was no explanation for that if what had happened was simply a fall.
Correct. and she suggested about the scissors, and
Yes.
you know, why on earth would my mother have scissors or anyone have access to scissors
Yes.
on level 2 observations, let alone in a psychiatric ward.
Yes.
As she then suggested that Mum could have damaged that cord by rubbing it on the windowsill, so where the window was open, because it was frayed. It hadn't just broken, it had frayed and
I
broken.
see.
But obviously in the ward, the windows don't open very far at all. They give enough ventilation for air, but for obvious reasons they don't open as an escape risk. So I don't know why she was going to the lengths when
Of
we
making
had
those suggestions.
produced an item which she had clearly used, and Mum had gone step by step through how she'd done it, basically covering their backs.
At that point, you called Craig and asked him to come
Yes.
immediately to the ward.
Yeah, definitely. Craig was at work, and you know, I would never call him at work if it wasn't, you know, something serious.
Yes.
I didn't even say to Craig exactly what I just said. I needed him to come as soon as possible.
I understand. And Craig, I understand from your witness statement, obviously, that you did go straight to the ward, and that Dawn was waiting for you in reception, explained to you the circumstances we have just described, and that both of you were told that your mother had been sent to her room because she was very agitated.
That's correct. Yeah.
You both went to her room together, and on doing so, what you saw was your mum setting up the ligature in exactly the way she had described to you,
Yes.
using the same or similar items.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
And bearing in mind that I was working locally at the time, so it didn't take me long to get to the hospital. So from the time that Dawn had initially engaged with Mum, and for the time I got there, wasn't long at all. So, you know, there wasn't a delay where perhaps Mum had a long time to think about this. She was sent to the room, and she was
sent to her room
Yeah.
and straight away
By herself.
started to make this attempt.
she was on her own, left on her
Yeah.
own.
So why was she sent to her room by herself? Why, having discussed that with the key worker,
Yes.
my father there as well, why had they not taken that opportunity to sit with her? I was literally going out of the ward
Yes.
to meet Craig.
Craig, I understand that it was you that immediately went to reception or to the desk to report that there was an urgent situation.
Yeah.
There were no staff around that you could see.
Not initially, no. I'll say not initially. There was no one at the desk initially, and then literally probably a few minutes later, one of the junior member staff arrived, and I said, we have an issue. We need the ward manager, we need some senior staff.
Yes.
I was told, no, just give me a minute. And I said, I'm not giving you any time at all.
There
Get
are
the
no
staff-
minutes,
No,
yes.
you get the appropriate staff members, come to my mum's room immediately.
Yes.
We have a problem.
And the person who did come was the senior member of nursing staff.
Yes, accompanied by, if I believe, one or two other members of staff.
I see. And this is what we touched on earlier, that you felt that response, really someone had thought actually a serious failing has
correct.
occurred, and we're going to need to address this with this family.
The course of events, from what I recollect, was when they arrived and they realised that there was a concern and was something that they needed to address, we were asked, Dawn and I, to go and wait in reception.
Yes.
So that's why I think, I'm not sure if the head of the ward was initially present at the room.
Yes.
Excuse me. But whilst Dawn and I were waiting in reception, that's when the head of the ward arrived. And at that time, Dawn and I had, we're not telepathic by any stretch, but I know we both had the same thought. The only reason why she's here is that there's a problem. It's
Yes.
almost like they sent the big guns to come and speak to us.
Was that the ward manager?
I have to be careful how I define this. I'm not sure it's the ward manager. I think we have to be careful.
Are you talking about the clinical manager?
No, we're talking about... sorry.
It's okay. It's all right.
She was in charge of the running of the ward on a day-to-day basis. So we've probably got managers above who are probably technically classed as the ward managers, but she was in charge of day-to-day operations, managing that ward and everything around it.
You waited in... No.
No, so as soon as she arrived, and body language was completely different.
I see.
It was more engaging, almost warming, trying to calm us down, not to agitate us any further than perhaps a previous demeanour might have done.
Yes.
Quick conversation, sort of let us settle a bit, and then we walked through, and then I think, don't correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure if we went straight to the room again or we went to the communal area of the board. I really can't remember. Yeah.
Yes, I understand.
But we witnessed in probably that period the two other members of staff going through Mum's room, removing other items of concern.
Can I ask you about that, please? Because I just want to ensure that I'm clear on this. I understand that before leaving the ward that day, one of the things that you did was impress upon staff that you must be informed of incidents like the incident that had taken place on the 14th of January. And Dawn, can I ask you please to turn to page 28 of your witness statement and to paragraph 117. This is actually about a different period, but if you look at the last 3 lines there, I just want to ask you whether it is the case that on the 16th of January, which is the day we've just been talking about, is what you mean there that on that day, the 16th of January, before you left, you found a cord in your mother's room, or are you talking about a different day? A better way for me to put it might be before you left the ward on the 16th of January, did it occur that you found any cords or risky items in her room?
She had shown us the cords, and obviously we had shown that to the staff.
And they had been removed?
I thought they had been removed.
Yes.
It's when I went into the ward on the 20th and wanted Mum's wardrobe, because as I stated before, I used to do Mum's washing to get her dirty washing out, and that's when we discovered the 2 items that had been fixed together was still in her bottom of her wardrobe.
Yes. That was on the 20th of January?
Yes.
I think it was the case that after that incident and after you had left the ward, a decision was taken, and again, this is what the records tell you, I'm not sure it was communicated to you, but you'll tell me if I'm wrong, that level 2 observations would remain in place. And the decision was taken that you discussed a little earlier, that your mum would be placed on restrictions, and the effect of that was that her bedroom door would be locked between 9 a.m. and 10 p.m. every day, such that she could only access the main or communal areas of the ward.
That's correct.
Now, given all that we have learnt so far about the ward environment and the functionality of the majority of the clients and the time that your mum was spending alone, in many ways, those decisions about restricted access to any kind of private space, I think your impression is that those worsened her condition.
Yes, it just escalated the whole situation, because she obviously was in a very low place at that time by her actions, and also the staff weren't believing her story.
Yes.
And I think there was a situation, I think you may come on to that, so I'll be quiet.
No, go ahead.
It was a situation where the ward manager went into my mum's bedroom and shouted at my mum that she had overstepped the mark this time.
This was the 18th of January, I think, this conversation.
This was after, obviously, we had raised the issue.
Yes.
They had then made notes and examined mum 2 days after anything had happened.
But on the 18th, as I understand it, when you visited your mum, what she told you about the conversation she had had with the ward manager, who was overtly, according to your mum, overtly angry with her.
Yes.
Said that she had overstepped the mark.
Overstepped her boundaries.
She'd gone too far this time.
And not to ask about medication or anything.
Not to present any kind of challenge.
Yeah, and just slammed the door and walked out.
Slammed the door, but also I think what your mum told you is that staff, she didn't necessarily name the ward manager, but that staff had tried to get her to change her account about what had happened on the 14th.
Yes.
So that first attempt.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's why as well mum was so desperate, determined to show Craig and I what she had done, because she wanted someone to believe her.
She wanted to be heard, and she wasn't being heard in there. And, you know, I guess she also had concerns that perhaps we were siding a little bit, although we were always engaging with mum, maybe in her mind we were siding with the ward and could side with the ward's narrative around what had happened. But clearly evidencing to us the process she had attempted, that was her way of communicating to us that her real intent.
She was desperate for help.
Yeah.
Yes. On the same day, the 18th of January, I think, again at your request, the independent advocate also visited the ward, and he was told that she had had an accident by banging her head on the wall.
Yes.
Which is slightly different again, isn't it?
Yes.
The purpose, I think, of having the independent advocate intervene at that time is because you were so concerned that nobody was investigating what had actually occurred on the 14th.
Yes, that's right.
And I think, is this right? A major part of the issue was what your mum had raised about some pressure being put on her to change her account about what had happened.
That's correct. That was on the 18th as well. It's difficult to phrase this, but...
you phrase it as you want to.
They actually said to her that if she didn't change her story, they were
going to reveal something about her.
Something that didn't need to be revealed, and it was it was blackmail, basically.
So that threat was made, and your mum told you about that on the 18th of January. She also, I think, said that she felt a huge change in the way that staff were treating her. It hadn't been
it wasn't
previously.
Yes, that's right. All the smiles had stopped, and there was shunning, I suppose, really, is probably...
You felt very strongly, I think, that she was frightened.
Yeah, definitely. Of course she was frightened. Obviously she was worried about the whole situation, that they'd made these threats to reveal something about her. And also, I mean, that's no way to treat her after something like that has happened, to tell her that she's overstepped the boundaries and don't ask for anything. They should have been going totally the opposite way and spending all the time with her and doing their best to how could they make good? They can't make
provide
good.
Therapeutic care.
Yes, that's right. Doing their job.
Yes.
Why put additional pressure on someone in a very fragile situation like that? It just doesn't make sense unless you've got your own agenda.
Yes.
Which probably they did, and maybe they have.
Tell me, this was the point, I think, at which you considered putting cameras into her room.
Yeah. We were clearly by this stage at a loss and very, very uncomfortable with the situation or the environment that Mum was in at the time. from the engagement or lack of with the nursing staff, and any engagement we did have with them was difficult at best. So to try and understand what Mum was going through, if you remember back to the quote of "you don't know what it's like in here."
Yes.
We thought, well, perhaps we need to know what it's like in here, and the only way to evidence that was, perhaps we would put some cameras in her room, inadvertently, secretly.
Yes. You decided against.
Yeah, it's probably the worst decision we made.
I mean, probably the worst.
That was.
But how things ended up may be the best in some respect. But that would have been a difficult viewing, of course, but maybe we would at least have the truth that we don't have today.
I understand. After that incident, I understand that throughout January and February, in summary, risky behaviours escalated, and it became very clear that your mother was desperately crying out for help.
Yes.
She was seen accessing another patient's belongings and asking another patient for a cord or belt of some kind.
Correct, because we had taken them, everything away by that time, anything that was in her wardrobe.
You found, as you've described to your horror, items that could plainly be used to ligature in her wardrobe when it was unlocked at your request.
Yes.
You discovered somehow that she had tried to use a staff access card to access her room.
Yes, for some unknown reason, even though Mum's the door to her room was locked, obviously the staff had a pack tag to access those rooms.
Yes.
Sometimes if Mum asked, they would give her the pack tag to go into the room by herself. Well, what's the point then of locking her outside of her room and keeping an eye on her, and then on another hand saying, there you go, Iris, off you go.
And allowing her to access her room with their card.
Without any supervision.
We learn from the serious incident report that in January, staff observed your mum placing an item of clothing that could plainly be used to ligature with inside her pillowcase.
That's correct, yes.
And those behaviours continued to escalate. Now, I want to take you, please, before we move on to what eventually happened, to the CPA meeting on the 23rd of January that you both attended. That meeting was attended by your mum, both of you, your mum's psychiatrist, care coordinator, the nurse in charge on the ward, and a senior manager.
Yeah,
correct.
I think it was Glenn.
I think her brother was there as well.
There as well, and I'm not sure if Dad was.
I think he was.
I think he was.
Yeah.
The major concerns you were raising was the fact that when you called the ward on the 15th to find out about what had happened on the 14th, you were told that your mother was attention-seeking.
Yes.
The fact that there appeared to have been no proper investigation of that incident, and the fact that your mum had told you that staff were trying to get her to change her story or she would be in trouble.
Correct.
You also raised issues around her care and treatment at that meeting, but focusing on those major concerns about what had happened on the 14th. As I understand it, there were some sort of conflicting... It was a conflicting meeting in that one member of staff accepted that had been a ligature attempt and that they would, and apologised and said that efforts would be made that it wouldn't occur again.
Yeah.
But your mum's psychiatrist said that he wasn't 100% sure it was an attempt to end her life and that there wasn't clear evidence either way.
I don't remember that part,
Okay.
if I'm honest, but I do remember the ward management accepting and admitting that they now concede that it was an attempt.
They now did.
They now did concede it was an attempt.
And that's when they said that they kind of set up at that point and said that we're from now on we intimated they was going to make things better, but It was too late. My mum was too low. It was too late.
Yes.
And I'm not sure, Rachel, if you're going to touch on this, but that's at that point, that meeting then, following on from our suspicions and our concerns, thinking about having a camera in the room, I decided to, or we agreed to record that meeting.
Yes.
Surreptitiously.
So you have that recording of the meeting?
Yeah, and there was, so that's why I particularly remember the staff agreeing that there was an issue.
Yes.
And conceding to that effect. And then I remember Dawn, just to touch on that point, that I remember the point she felt like we'd gone too far. There was no turning back now. Mum's condition had deteriorated that far. There was no turning back.
I see. That was on the 23rd of January, and the very next day, Dawn, as you were handed an envelope containing your mother's belts.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind that she had been on restricted access to her room since the 15th or 16th of January. She also, in early February, told you a little about the way in which she was being treated, and I think there was a particular incident where a staff member threatened, she was asking, bearing in mind her history of poor sleep and anxiety around that, a staff member she had asked to turn the lights off at night, had threatened to leave them on all night if she kept complaining about it.
That's right, yes.
And there was another incident as well, apologies if you're going to get to it, but there was a male member of staff, quite a big gentleman.
Yes.
I think there were suggestions of bullying by him, where he would, instead of making way in a corridor to let Mum pass, he would block her path. I'm not sure how forcefully he did that.
Yes.
Those were the sort of things that Mum had suggested he had done.
She suggested that to you.
Yeah.
She told you about that. Thank you. I think we also, you've told us that you took your mum's washing home.
Yes, that's correct.
On the 3rd of February, you found a pill, some sort of medication in the pocket of her jeans.
I did, yes.
Called the ward, spoke to the ward manager, who said,
I actually showed them, I think it took the back, and they said, but that's not one of your mother's tablets, that's not medication she's on.
Yes.
I said, well, you're missing the point.
Why did she have it?
How has my mum got anybody's tablets? How has she got this medication? And it was just dismissed. It was almost, why are you raising this point?
Yes.
We don't see it as an issue.
And if you remember from the earlier part, almost first thing this morning, when I said about staff having adequate training and the controls and oversight of staff as they progress up that those qualification periods, so they can clearly be responsible for people in that position. I would suggest that's probably one of the reasons why that happened. You had a junior member of staff not adequately qualified, not adequately supervised when distributing medication to a wide number of patients at one time.
Yes.
Because they would regularly leave the station.
I see. To go and do that.
Yeah.
I understand. Can I take you, please, to the 11th of February, and in particular, if we can look together, please, at page 32 of your witness statement, Dawn, and paragraph 139. Now, we recall that you told us that on Christmas Eve you had had a feeling that your call with your mum was being listened to.
Yes.
Here we see, and this is the 11th of February, that the records show, are those, we think those are NEPT records, are they?
Yes, I believe so, yes.
That your mum had approached staff and asked to be allowed to have private telephone calls with her family. And you say there, in response, it was explained to her by staff that following her behaviour during her husband and daughter's visit the previous day, it was felt necessary to monitor conversations with her family. Now, you had no discussion with anyone about that at the time
No,
because you didn't
absolutely
know.
no, didn't know. And as I say, the feeling I had, it was just purely a feeling. I didn't know back at Christmas time that my call was being listened to. It was just a feeling I had from the click on the phone. Obviously, they were listening to far more than we knew they were.
Yes.
Or we given permission to.
Or were given permission.
I'm sorry, say that again,
Or we
Craig.
given permission to. Maybe they don't need permission, but I would expect them to at least give us...
I don't know why they were listening to him.
At least inform us that that was the case, but I guess that's consistent with their lack of engagement and information that didn't flow to us during the course of Mum's treatment anyway. So
Yes, I understand. I'd like to take you on, please, to the circumstances leading up to your mother's death. We know that between the 11th of February and the 28th, there had been a number of further medication changes. Yeah. We see a note in the records where the psychiatrist is questioning whether there is a genuine mental illness, or again, we see this phrase around personality problems. Disorder. Again, presumably nobody discussed that with you because you didn't know that those were their considerations at the time. What we know is that the records on the 27th of February show that it was decided that there would be a review of the restrictions your mum had been placed under in terms of her access to her own room and so on, and that her psychiatrist decided that those would be lifted after the ward round if there were no other concerns.
Yes, but I think it was on the 27th when Mum was having the meeting.
Yes.
It was by a doctor that didn't know Mum.
I see.
I think the psychiatrist was busy on something else, and that doctor had questioned Mum about her feelings. She had said that she wouldn't do anything to hurt her family, and that even if she could have access to risky items, she wouldn't know what to do with them. Well, this was clearly untrue because she had shown for the previous 3 months that any time that she could get her hand on everyday item that could be deemed risky, she certainly did know how to use it. He took Mum's word as that was it, she wasn't going to do anything, and she was lifted from level 2 restrictions.
Yes, and she was allowed access to her own bedroom again. That decision was taken, I think, or that the restrictions were lifted fairly late on the 27th. You came to learn of this the next day, the 28th.
Yes, I was told in a phone call in the morning, and I immediately asked for a CPA meeting.
Yes.
Because I couldn't believe with what had happened over the last few weeks that they was actually lifting those restrictions.
Yes.
Without consulting us, and as I said before, with a doctor that didn't know Mum, and she had clearly stated she clearly had the intention and knew what to do with risky items. Unfortunately, that meeting was arranged for a couple of weeks' time so that our brother that was living in Germany could fly over and come. But as we know, 24 hours later, she wasn't with us.
Yes. What your mother said to that doctor on the 27th of February was, as you say, taken at face value. And this was despite the fact, I think, that there were some conflicting accounts. So we can see from the records, for example, that on the 13th of February, your mum is recorded as having said to staff that actually the family was not a protective factor, and that she wouldn't miss her grandchildren. She didn't have feelings for the family. And I don't suggest that communicates anything other than utter desperation, but the record was there to be noticed. We also know now, moving into the evening and night of the 28th of February, 28th of February, that there was some sort of incident meaning that staff had left the ward and the ward environment was in flux or slightly chaotic at the time, yes?
Yes.
The ward records or NEPT records tell us that a staff member found your mother hanging in her bathroom at midnight on the 1st of March 2014.
Correct.
What he describes having found, if I can put it in this way, is an exact mirror of the items and system your mother had described to you from the 14th of January and that you yourselves had seen on the 16th of January. Is that a fair description?
It's a fair description, and it was exactly 24 hours after being taken off of observation for the significant attempt on the 14th of January.
Yes.
And this was less than 24 hours after being taken off of observations.
Yes. The nurse who is said to have found your mum also says in his statement to the inquest or in his account that when he had come onto shift at 8:30 p.m, he had been informed that your mum had taken had been offered some sedative medication because she reported feeling very anxious.
Yeah.
You consider that perhaps ought to have triggered some sort of alarm bells, given that restrictions had literally just been lifted.
And she also said to the person, there's no need for you to watch me tonight.
Where do you know that from, Dawn? Do you know? I can see it in your statement,
Yeah.
paragraph 152. It doesn't matter very much,
Yeah,
but I just wonder.
I must have been told, so I think it must have been in one of the statements
Yes.
for me to know that, because obviously I wasn't there. I left the ward probably about 5:30, whatever dinner time was. It was around dinner time when
Yes.
I left the ward. My mum had had her hair done that day. She was in a somber mood. She was quite within herself.
Yes.
But I left the ward about 5:30, 6 o'clock that day. So it must have been in one of the statements for me to know that, because
I
obviously
understand.
I wasn't there. And
Please don't worry.
to speak to her
I
after
understand.
that.
But in your mind, in any event, an inpatient in these circumstances telling staff that they don't need to be checked on is an obvious trigger for
Yes.
concern. I understand, and you must tell me if I have any of this wrong, that both of you have very grave concerns about the sequence of events on that evening as presented by ward staff. And in part that is because although the staff member I've just referred to reports finding your mum at about midnight, in fact, we know from ambulance service records that the first call to ambulance services was made at 36 minutes or 35 minutes. No, 32 minutes past midnight, I'm so sorry.
That's correct, but my mum's door was not accessed before 25 minutes past 12.
Yes.
In fact, the senior nurse had gone sick that evening. There was bank staff in. They were short-staffed that night.
Yes.
They only had one card between the three people that were on duty to access rooms. And one of the person that had the card was in a different part of the Crystal Centre.
Yes.
So he was actually out of Topaz and Ruby Ward. He was still within the Amethyst Centre, but he was photocopying in the front. So he was nowhere near that area.
Yes.
And there was a gentleman that was on level 2 that should have been being watched every 20 minutes in the bedroom opposite Mum's. But that card did not access the room until after he said that he saw Mum.
And you know that, having sought to obtain the records of the access cards from the trust?
We asked for the PAC tag report for that night so we could determine where people were on the ward.
And it goes to the consistency that from previous attempts and how the trust, the ward, have tried to, in our work or our view, cover up certain, especially the first attempt.
Yes.
Trying to get mum to change her mind and dismiss it, etc. Then the inconsistency of the events on the night. Naturally, we can only we speculate. We just can't get comfortable with what is being presented to us by the board.
I understand.
By the trust on the events of that night. It's very difficult to accept. Too many inconsistencies.
I understand. And in terms of the cover-up that you've referred to from earlier in January, I think your feeling, both of you, is that had you not been there on the 16th and witnessed your mum doing what she did, that event of the 14th of January might actually have been forever dismissed as a fall. It might not have been accepted that was a ligature attempt. Is that fair?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I'd agree. What didn't help the ward and the trust was the significant injuries that mum sustained. There's no way they could cover that up. And yet, mum's, she local key worker.
Yes.
Bremway, she's supposed to be dealing with mum on a regular basis. At the coroner's inquest, actually denied ever seeing mum in that condition.
So that key worker denied having seen the injuries after the 14th of January?
Correct. And yet, these weren't slight superficial injuries that would go
unnoticed.
You could see them from a good distance away. A good distance.
It was the community care worker, wasn't it? And she had actually taken mum to the dentist, and she accused mum of continually prodding her face to make them worse. Well, mum was prodding her face because she could obviously see where it was so swollen.
Yes.
She could see, she could feel.
And feel, presumably.
Yeah.
Of course. I understand that the serious incident report that was later published, and I'll ask you a few things about that, was really for both of you notable in what it missed rather than what it did contain. Because what we know, having now talked through the events of the 14th of January and the 16th of January, and knowing that the events in the early hours of the 1st of March 2014 mirrored both of those events, is that somehow, despite all that had occurred, your mum remained in possession of an item that was obviously risky, a fixed ligature point remained in place, and nothing had been actioned or changed about those matters.
Not only the items that mum used, that she had, if you like, for her personal items.
Yes.
You touched on the point, and it's the chair that mum used in the initial attempt, and then ultimately, I hate to say it, successful attempt, was a very heavy chair. I used to have to move that, so if I went to visit mum and she was sort of sitting or laying on the bed, I would move that chair. Now I don't consider myself, I'm not the strongest person in the world, but I'm no means the weakest, and it took reasonable effort to move that chair. It wasn't a standard chair that we're all sitting on today. For someone in mum's condition, Frau, that would have taken significant effort on both occasions to move that chair, to drag it across the floor. It must have made a noise.
Dragging across the floor.
Dragging the floor. Admittedly, she's not dragging it 10 yards. She's probably dragging it 3 to 4 yards to the area needed. But it would have taken significant effort. Had the ward on both of days been suitably staffed, it couldn't have, you would have definitely heard it.
Yes.
So It's just, but you go back to the first attempt, why wasn't that identified and that item removed?
Yes.
I mean, again, another failing.
Yes. You also, I think, questioned the item that your mum used on the 1st of March 2014 was a scarf, and it was found to be her own, and that she must have brought it from home. And you questioned why she was allowed to have that in her room, given all that had taken place by then.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, there was a significant search. I mean, as I touched on earlier, we witnessed them going through the wardrobe on the 15th, 16th, cleaning out, I'm sure there was a hairdryer,
Yes.
belts, everything. So why wasn't it identified then? And there were other occasions as well. So there is no excuse for that item to be there. It's not like Mum had a home visit.
No.
Or we had brought it in.
No.
Clearly we would never do such a thing. So there's just no excuse for having an item, an everyday item like that in her room.
Yes. I understand that you have learned, it had always been your impression that your mum had died before 2 a.m.
Yeah.
because that's what you were told. And in fact, ambulance service records show that when they attended, your mum was in what they call workable arrest.
Yeah.
And ambulance service records tell you that she was recorded as deceased at 2:17 in the morning. You have questions, I think, that have never been answered around training for the resuscitation and the use of the defibrillator, and what happened in those minutes when...
Well, as we said before, the mum's room wasn't entered until 25 minutes past. It should have been obvious this was an emergency. However, an ambulance was not called for 10 minutes.
Yes.
We're at a hospital. There's an ambulance station right outside the hospital gates.
Yes.
Also, they contacted the doctor on call at the Linden Centre.
Yes.
Who didn't turn up until some time later because he said he didn't realise it was an emergency.
Presumably because someone had not communicated to him that it was
yes,
an emergency.
I think the issue was also that they didn't have a mobile phone. There was only one phone, which was at the nurses' station. So they were having to relay. I appreciate it was probably quite a distressing time in the ward, but they had to go back to the nursing station. But one of the nurse that was, female nurse that was on duty said that my mum had a faint pulse. We were told it was a workable arrest.
Yes.
The nurse that found Mum said that she was standing facing the door. As I described before, Mum was 5 foot tall, so that scarf would have had to been very long. Combined with the pulse, a workable arrest, and nothing was called. What happened in those 10 minutes when something could have been being done
Yes.
and wasn't? Basically,
Thank you.
she should still be here.
Craig, is there anything that you want to add there before I move on?
It's just, I don't understand how there can be so many inconsistencies on an event with a relatively small time frame.
Yes.
People have different recollections of different events, I understand that, especially in high-stress environments. But there's what I would call unrefuted evidence of times when doors are opened, closed, calls are made, etc. Why wasn't that relayed to us at the time? It wasn't. We're finding out a lot of things 10 years later.
Yes.
I just find that unacceptable. And it
One
just makes me wonder why. And again, that's the big question.
Thank you. One of the things you note, Craig, about the serious incident report is that once you had read it, you didn't consider it really worthy of further scrutiny.
It wasn't fit for purpose.
It doesn't mention...
For me, it was a copy and paste.
Right.
From so many other... I don't think Mum's name was even mentioned correctly. It was a...
I think you received a copy of it that named her as Mrs. Smith, did you not?
It was just... I mean, how can someone not proofread that before you put in front of two grieving relatives and have that respect and care and attention to detail, or say attention to detail? I mean, that's the basic, to at least have the name of the deceased
Indeed.
Presented correctly, let alone the overall content of that document. It just wasn't fit for purpose. It was a waste of time.
It didn't, in fact, address in sufficient detail, in your view, any of the matters we've just discussed, how that item came to be in your mum's possession, the fact of the ligature point that was used, a fixed ligature point in a bathroom, how staff dealt with those minutes that you've just described, or the inconsistencies between ward staff timings and ambulance staff timings. None of that was addressed.
I would say it was more, that report was more there to protect the ward and the trust than it was to address the issues that happened on that evening and leading up to it. It wasn't a serious report to say, let's look where the accountability is and where we can make improvements. It was, how can we protect what we have and make best of a bad situation? And that's putting it politely.
And I think one of the statements from the female nurse that was on duty that evening, her statement wasn't taken till the 25th of May.
Yes.
A significant time after the event for something that, as the report suggests, a serious incident. And they're investigating their own.
Yes. For that reason, I think you tell us in your witness statement that actually you felt fairly dismissive of the process from the start. They're marking their own homework.
Yeah.
In terms of the inquest, I know that took place in June 2015. There had been a delay because there was a delay in disclosure on the part of the trust, as I understand it. It had been due to take place in March 2015, finally took place in June 2015.
Some of that was at our request.
I see.
Thank
you.
March, we didn't want March because it was so close to the anniversary.
Yes.
We had Dad's birthday in early April.
Yes.
So, the delay didn't help, but again, it goes back to their initial suggestion of March 2015, almost a year to the date after the event.
Yes.
Where was their what was their thinking?
The thinking, and I think both of you say in slightly different ways in your witness statements, but you must tell me that you felt. I know that Dawn, you did. You found Inquest, the charity, and then found some legal representation, but your overall impression was that it was the process leant towards the trust. And help me with what you mean by that.
They seem to be more obstructive, and I remember with the coroner when I was trying to, especially to talk about the attempt and Mum's final act.
Yes.
They just kept saying this is not an investigation. This is an inquest. But we just wanted to get our story across. again, I can't understand when you have so many deaths in one particular area, which are all going through one coroner's office, how this was missed for such a long time.
Thank you. There was no prevention of future deaths report,
No.
was there?
It felt like to me, I would only describe it as institutional bias.
Thank you.
In that our initial barrister and the coroner clashed, so much so that we had to, well, he removed himself from the process, which massively hindered the process for us. So we had to get someone else in, get them up to speed with what's gone on, and then go again. It just, every challenge was always, every challenge that we put forward was rejected, and seemed that everything that the trust put forward was accepted. And we just felt, and then that was my first experience of ever being in a situation, in a courtroom and an environment such as, a proceeding such as that. And I was just, I couldn't believe what I was, although I was very much immersed with it, I couldn't believe what I was witnessing and being part of. I expected almost the coroner to be leaning on our side rather than necessarily the trusts, just from a humane,
a human point of view,
human perspective. But it most definitely wasn't.
No.
It's, like I say, I can only describe it as institutional bias. That's what it felt like.
And they were very much against us, obviously, using the tape that we had mentioned on the 20th, the CPA meeting. However, they failed to mention that they had been listening to our phone calls. So it was very much, don't do what we do as we say.
And obviously that was a factual piece of recording.
Yes.
So you can't dispute that. And yet there was the other piece of blackmail or the other issue that the coroner allowed to be presented during the trial, the sensitive information that,
yes.
I'm not sure if I can say it or I can't.
We don't need to.
Don't need to.
So that was just unnecessary.
Yes.
We informed the coroner and the legal teams that this would have a massive impact on my dad's health.
Yes.
My dad's health going forward. Again, completely dismissed. This was a relevant piece of information that she wasn't willing to allow it to be framed in a different way. It was coming out as brutal as it could be.
Yes.
And it just said to me that very much erring on the side of the trust case rather than, well, I say you shouldn't call it a case because it was on trial, but the trust position.
I understand. The other thing that happened, and then I would very much like, if I can, to move to talk with you both about the recommendations you would like to see made or the comments you've made on that, is that talking, as you have just done, Craig, about the thinking and the compassion behind actions taken following the death of a loved one, I understand that on the 21st of July of 2014, your father received at home a letter to your mother inviting her to join the Board of Governors.
Indeed.
Or some position of that sort. Is that right?
Yeah.
Correct.
That obviously would have been fantastically distressing to him. Did he receive an apology, or did you?
I think he did.
Oh, I can't remember.
I think he did, yes, but I mean, how can that happen?
I mean, even at the time initially, after Mum's death, we went to the ward to collect her things.
Yes.
And the staff, there's no sympathy, empathy. They just kept referring to Mum as the body.
Yes.
And I had to say I had to walk out because I was about to lose my temper.
Yes.
That 24 hours earlier, she was under their care.
Yes.
Or was meant to be under their care.
That is your recollection also of that day that staff, the 1st of March, that
yes.
When you went to the ward, staff referred to your mum as the body.
Indeed, and that they didn't really know the process, didn't appear to know the process and what we should do next. I think we might have been given a leaflet, I'm not sure.
I think you told us that it appeared to be that nobody knew the process, everything was chaotic, and they didn't even have a telephone number for the mortuary.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And you know, around that time as well, we had asked, my husband had been in contact with the coroner's officer to see if we could have a full toxicology report at the post-mortem. This was because in my mum's personal diaries that she had kept asking for PRN and for blood tests because she was describing herself, not that she knew what it would feel like, but she said, if I knew better, it would feel like cold turkey. It was almost like I was coming off of the medication.
Withdrawal.
But at that time, she had been, her doses of risperidone had been increased, despite the fact that she had some like blurred vision and things like that, which is something that risperidone causes, and she should have been taken off of it or reduced immediately. But when the police officer went to the nurses' station to get my mum's notes for the post-mortem, they were given the wrong notes. So the toxicology report was inconsistent because it wasn't the right patient's notes.
Yes. When you were asked, Dawn, in the Inquiry's Rule 9 request, a question along the lines of what do you think should have been done differently for your mum, and your answer, I think...
Everything.
Everything, yes.
Everything. We should have never been at that stage because she was a voluntary patient. Everything, I mean, when you think how stretched the mental health care is and the fact that mum should have been in there for just 3 weeks, quick fix, and had they listened to us or looked back at 2008, that's all that needed to be done. All she needed to be given was the PRN that she was given on that occasion. And I'm not saying it would have worked exactly the same way, but they didn't even try it. She was supposed to be there for a quick 3-week quick fix. She could have had that. She could have been like in a deep sleep for 3 days, as she was before, and perhaps
come through it.
But that wasn't even tried. And I think that, Craig, there was an occasion where mum was agitated. I can't remember when it was. And
I think Dawn was away, and I just couldn't visit mum one, I think, weekend, Saturday afternoon, and she was agitated, and there was a temporary bank staff. I think she was on ward. Oh no, she was sitting in from the other ward, so she came over, and I can't remember even how I started the conversation with her and asked her regarding this particular medication.
Yes.
And she listened to me, and she prescribed it. Now, that just obviously I was pleased at the time. I thought, great, this is a way forward. Ultimately, that was removed. But again, when you think about that process, is it right that a temporary member of staff who doesn't know mum's case is able to change medication at will?
And at your request?
And at our request.
Yes.
Without going through a governance process. I find that, in retrospect, when you think about different things, difficult to accept. At the time, I was pleased. I thought, oh, mum's getting what she had before, and we may get on the right road again. But
I understand.
Yeah, not ideal.
But on that note as well, in respect of a temporary nurse coming in, bank staff, whatever, they were changing the computer systems at that particular time.
Yes.
And some were trained on, I can't remember, I think it was one was called Remedy and one was called Care something.
Yes.
But they didn't know how to transfer the details, or some people didn't even have access to the up-to-date records. So
yes. That was one of the findings of the SI report, was that those problems and poor record keeping impacted or may have had an impact on your mother's care and treatment, because some of it simply wasn't available. For example, some of the notes or records on one or other of those systems wasn't available to bank staff, for example.
Yes.
I think there was also, correct me if I'm wrong, example where the records were weren't dated correctly. I think
Yes.
there was an entry after Mum's death
I see.
of something that I'm pretty sure that the consistency or the accuracy of Mum's record definitely had a lot to be desired.
Dawn, moving, please, if I can, to the matters you've listed at page 42 of your witness statement that you would ask the inquiry to consider as recommendations for change. We've covered, I think, these: staffing and training, the suitability of wards, the interaction with and between staff and psychiatrists, care plans and treatment, and compliance with regulation or regulatory bodies. Before I move to Craig to look at his views and recommendations, is there anything else, having gone through all that we've gone through this morning, that you would want to add at this stage to that list?
No, only if these recommendations are made, it's actually checked that these recommendations are complied with, because from my understanding, the CQC inspected the wards on numerous occasions, and I think I can't even count on two hands how many times they said about ligature points,
Yes.
and these were never removed.
Yes.
Had they been removed after Mum's death, then perhaps people that died the following year would still be here, but
Yes.
it wasn't complied with. I don't know if this is finances, incompetence, or they just brushed it under the mat, that because nobody was checking whether these things were going to be done.
They weren't.
They weren't.
I understand. Thank you. Craig, you've recorded in 2 paragraphs in your witness statement on page 12 your views and recommendations and some thoughts that you have, and you note the other deaths in Essex that this inquiry is examining, and tell us that you think all the obvious recommendations will already have been made.
Yeah. To me, there's just zero. I mean, as it says there, there's zero accountability. I'm mindful that a lot of this comes down to budget. Mental health has become more in focus since Mum's death, thankfully. But is there a real desire to take these recommendations and others more seriously? That's what I question. And there's a small note in this, and it may be harsh, but I'm a bit of a cynic at heart, so apologies. But sometimes I just wonder, it's a bit like battlefield casualties. And this is why how I view some of perhaps the trust or the governments. On the battlefield, especially in recent engagements that most forces, British forces, have been involved with, the enemy are not trying to kill our combatants, they're trying to maim and injure, because the impact both for the cost of and mentally for the relatives and the government, especially the cost, is significantly greater than repatriating one of our forces personnel. I sometimes think it's easier, this is me, that it's easier for the trusts and the government to let these incidents happen because they can't adequately finance the treatment. So it's an easy way out. Now, that's incredibly harsh and probably maybe completely off-centre way of thinking of it, but I can't see why simple instructions, guidance, whatever you want to call them, removing ligatures, cannot be addressed. That is not a significant cost to any entity at all. Now, I can only assume then they're quite happy to go through this process or allowing people to go through this process. And to Storm's point, you know, at the coroner's inquest, where we've had significant numbers of people attending those inquests for exactly the same reasons that we've had to go through, and they continue to go through.
Yes.
What other conclusion can you draw? It's just lack of desire, lack of willingness, and it's just easy to keep going with the status quo, and that's unacceptable.
Thank you. Chair, I have come to the end of my questions for Dawn and Craig, and unless you have any others, I think we could now break.
I've got no.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I thank you both very much indeed for coming?
Thank you.
We appreciate it
Thank you
greatly.
for listening.
And I know it can't have been easy, so I'm very grateful to you indeed.
Thank you.
Chair, I'm so sorry. I'm reminded very kindly that there is a photograph of Iris that we had planned to show now, if you're both happy to go ahead and do that. My apologies.
Happier days.
Yes.
The babysitter.
Two.
Thank you.
See you.
Thank you.